Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of Stoned Appetit. We have a kick-ass interview at the second half of this episode. Shout out to Mark Turner from Lost Whiskey, a Jackson Hole lineage family story, but also a wonderful product out of Mount Vernon, Virginia, I think. I think that's right.
I'm a George Washington.
That's exactly it. Chris has already listened to the episode, so he's already teasing it. It's a great interview. Y'all are going to love it mightily. I am now joined today by Mark Turner. Y'all are going to know him because of Lost Whiskey. You've seen him on our social media. You've seen us sipping as we end winter with a nice little fire water. But today we're going to talk not only about the lineage of his whiskey brand, but also his namesake and the fact that he is a family early settler in the Jackson Hole area. Mark, thank you so much for joining me.
It's good to be here. Thank you for taking the time.
You say that now, in 20 minutes, you're gonna be like, Jesus fuck, what did I get myself into?
Well, we got beer here, so we're fine.
Bada bing. Well, we like to start every episode kind of the same way, asking, are you a transplant or a native to Colorado? But seeing as I am actually a guest in your town and your community this weekend, let's just dive right into the nitty gritty. You a lifer in Jackson Hole? Where do you call home? What brings you to town this weekend?
Well, I claim Jackson Hole as my own. I was born here in Jackson, St. John's Hospital. My dad was born here in St. John's Hospital. I'm generation 3, generation 4 of a 5-generation family here. We own a dude ranch called Triangle X Ranch. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary this year, founded in 1926. So we were blessed to be born in this country. It's magical, as you know. I currently live in Virginia. We have an architecture firm there and a whiskey company called Lost Whiskey, but home is really Jackson Hole.
I love it. I'm going to have you move your mic a little closer, maybe above that last button, just because you speak eloquently, softly, and humbly, but at the same time, I want to make sure everybody can hear your story. And I heard a little bit about this yesterday. I actually heard from your father as well. Y'all are not early fucking settlers of Jackson Hole. You're celebrating 100 years at, you said it was the Triangle X Ranch. Is that correct?
The Triangle X Ranch, yeah, it's in the northern end of the park here in Jackson Hole. We were actually here before the park was established. Bought by my parents' great ancestors were Mormon, and they would come up here and hunt and fish. And this guy was up here, and he owned this homestead, and he was sick, and they knew he had to sell it. So my great grandfather went to him and said, "I'll pay you." He goes, "What do you want for that land?" And he's like, "I'll take 900 for it." And my great grandfather goes, "I'm not giving you 900 for it." And the guy was in the hospital, and he was, on the verge of death, I believe. He said, "I'll give you 1,800 for it because that's what it's worth. You're not selling it for what it should be worth." So he paid 1,800. He doubled the price because he was an honorable cowboy. But $1,800 for, I don't know what the time was, 300 acres in Jackson Hole. Yeah.
I mean, you're a young sport. So being, I know you mentioned you and your father born in the same hospital, but I mean, y'all's family lineage is tied to this land. And then you've also, as you mentioned, you have an architecture firm and the whiskey brand that brought us together this weekend based out of Virginia. When was it that you left Jackson and was like, you know what, let me go see fuck it. Let me go see what else is out there. How did you kind of come about? Like, let's get out of there, change the scenery.
Well, it wasn't my choice. My dad was an appointee for Bush 1 administration.
George H.W.?
Yep. He was appointed. He was a state senator here for 20 years in Wyoming. He was the first state senator at 28, I think. Is how young he was. But he got appointed to director of Fish and Wildlife under George H. So we moved back there when I was a freshman in high school. And he served under George H. for Fish and Wildlife.
So y'all have a little bit of East Coast vibe to you. And then I heard through the grapevine of our conversation, you went to school at Notre Dame.
Yes.
You and your sister both studied philosophy. I swear to God, I'm not like a stalker.
I think she's full of shit, actually. She studied art.
Okay.
I actually studied great books, which is basically philosophy, but yeah.
And then what was architecture?
My father went there too.
Okay, so y'all have like a long line of Catholic fandom, or was it like y'all love football?
My dad went there, so that was the first apple to fall. My grandmother was raised Catholic in a Catholic convent in San Antonio. She said to any of our grandchildren, if you went to a Catholic school, she'd pay for half. religion was important to her, so it was a hard deal to pass up. So yep, blessed to go to Notre Dame.
I know the feeling, not about the Notre Dame, but growing up in a house that has a lot of religious bases. Grandfather started a church that my dad lived in, the youth house.
Really?
He is a deacon still at that same place. I was baptized there many moons ago in the state of Mississippi.
What denomination?
We were considered somewhat of a Baptist organization. I think we lost our affiliation because we stood alongside those of the LGBTQ community, which was kind of staunchly opposed by the Southern Baptist Coalition. Which I mean, just human decency was something that we kind of carried in our family, so we didn't lose too much sleep about it. And what we did see was a community kind of fostered around, people that stood up for what we also read in the good book. So I know the feeling well. Your grandmother grew up in a San Antonio convent, but she is quite literally like the OG, like figurehead matriarch of the family. And I heard a few of these stories yesterday, but she's almost like quintessential of like a Wyoming vibe. Before, as I sit here in my Parker Thomas hat, not Sabi, dick. But
I should have covered that one. But yeah.
oh no, dude, it was so funny. Everybody was looking at me like, he's talking about you. And I was like, of course he is. I mean, I'm the one wearing a
But you
white
don't claim to be a
fucking,
cowboy. That's the difference.
no, I'm the last fucking thing from a cowboy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wearing corduroy pants and a fucking silk shirt. I'm
The three biggest
cosplaying.
lies in Wyoming are truck outside is paid for, the belt buckle, I won it in a rodeo, and I swear to God, I was just trying to help the sheep over the fence.
That one's great, and that one's a nice slide to some interesting folks that are out there. But yeah, so y'all grew up out here. It kind of made you who you are, but you sharpened your teeth and you earned your stripes out there, kind of on the East Coast and across the country. We're going to talk about the whiskey, but let's talk a little bit about how you kind of found your footing. When did you realize, was it a passion project while drawing buildings and like design? Are you a math guy? Like, how did this all come about? Because I mean, you could have been a rancher. You could have been, a figurehead and a mayor of a valley and a whole city if you wanted to, but you went a different route.
Yeah, I've been blessed with opportunities. Growing up on the ranch, we didn't have a TV. We had one TV, and my dad was running for something, and they misquoted him, so he was upstairs, and he shot the TV because he was cleaning his handgun. And mom was downstairs. They had a young baby, and she thought my dad killed himself. So she went running up there, and the funny part was is he shot the TV, then it caught on fire, but it didn't kill the audio. So he could still hear the jackass in the TV and the fire, and still alive. My mom's like, good Lord. But there's still a burn mark in the cabin where he shot the TV. So we had no TV. We went outside every day and we built shit. We were in the forts and go-karts. And so I was always working with my hands and building stuff. And I've always loved to see things created. Um, so I've been a builder most of my life. I worked on commercial development. We have a general contracting firm, but I really love the design part of it. So we've kind of morphed from hands-on building. We build our own furniture to now we're pretty much just an architecture firm. Um,
I
with
know that
a whiskey problem.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best yesterday. It's like you can tell a little bit, and I may be paraphrasing, but you can tell a little bit about where they come, what folks have done in their lives or what they do by their hands, not the belt buckle. It's not about that flash. And as a mom who was a general contractor herself, I used to sell sheetrock and worked in restaurants across the country. It kind of builds a little bit of character, but also living out here in tough winters or without being molded by fucking Mayberry or John Wayne, like you were tried and true in that regard. And then learning about architecture, how did you kind of find that your passion projects aren't just bourbon? You have an unbelievable eye for art as well. And it may be a family thing, but like, how did you kind of find that other niche outside of your everyday, let's say, paycheck?
I love to build stuff with my hands. I love to create things. Living in Jackson Hole, we were blessed. If people have been to Jackson Hole, you know it. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, I would say. So it's hard to be not inspired by design and just things of beauty. My sister's an artist here locally. Um, yeah, I just love creating things. That's always how my mind's worked. I love sketches and being an architect for the last 20 years, we just had the opportunity to work on projects with single family homes and commercials that we go back and visit 10 years later, and the ethos of the place is still intact. Is that okay with that noise?
No, you're groovy. I was just making sure that you weren't being lost in it, and you're all good.
Okay. So I don't know if it's a good answer to your question, but
I throw convoluted questions out there, and it seems like you have an eye for beauty and an eye for art. But how did you create a palate on the tongue? How were you like, you know what? Let's try my fucking hand at whiskey because you mentioned, speaking of Poppy Van Winkle and sitting around, and like bourbon is meant to be shared with friends and camaraderie, and sometimes it's to raise a toast and sometimes it's to honor a lost friend or family. But how are you like, you know what? Why don't I dip my toe into this industry and into this game?
it's a good question.
Thanks. I have a lot of them.
As a contractor and as an architect, we're a service business, so we're as good as our next project, which is great, but still a service business. As you know, it's not a commodity. We love telling stories, building things. We wanted to have a commodity for our ethics ethos. So it was just kind of a harebrained idea of, hey, we can keep the architecture going, but let's break a brand that we can sell that kind of tells our theory of the world in a fucked up as way as it is. And the guys that worked with me were also the builders and now part of the whiskey. They're a whole log on it, and I got great partners in the deal that are passionate as I am. But we'd have every Christmas party was just a big bourbon exchange. So we're like, what the hell? Why don't we start a bourbon company? So we did, and 10 years later, roughly 10 years later, we're still chugging.
Was there a gap where you thought there was something missing in the industry, or was it something where you wanted to be a part of something that maybe beyond just your architecture firm, but something that was bigger than you, that told more of whether it's your family story or your business's story? Like, what was like, okay, this is the caveat that I'm going to go through?
Yeah, I think projects, individual project, custom projects have a certain shelf life, and I look at my kids and legacy and my own, quantifying my own value and time, and I wanted to build something that would hopefully be passed down to maybe my kids, maybe not, but would last beyond me. That would be a product or service that was kind of our heartstring in the world that would live beyond us, and service industries don't typically. Um,
Yeah, the average lifespan of a restaurant's like 18 fucking months. So like having a brand that is on shelves across America and being honored this weekend, just as y'all are honoring your 100 years as your farm, it is. It's got a little bit of staying power, I think would be a great way to describe
yeah,
it.
that's a good way to put it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about whiskey and the staying power, because it's, we all say that it's from Scotland or Ireland. They sure as fuck claim it, but there's a pride in bourbon and in whiskey in America. Was it welcomed when you were like, I'm not from the industry, but I'm getting into it, when you launched Lost Whiskeys out of Virginia, of all places?
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you told me yesterday.
Well, we have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder being from Virginia. Obviously, people say you can't be a bourbon unless you're from Kentucky. That's total bullshit. It's an American law that it's got to be in America. Kentucky has no birthright to bourbon. And don't get me wrong, Kentucky makes great bourbon, and we have projects in Kentucky, and I love to banter with my Kentucky friends. But
It's a ball busting conversation point.
whiskey was first made in Virginia, unquestionable. It was first made in Virginia. You can go back and look at the history. Our brand is named after a lost mountain, which was owned by George Washington. He bought this land and was going to retire there. It's a beautiful spot. We built a speakeasy. At his death, he was one of the largest distillers in America. So you got George Washington, you got the first whiskey in Virginia. What really pisses off Kentucky, though, is that the Secretariat is also from Virginia. So
I
that,
mean,
that really chafes their balls.
it's the bluegrass state. Obviously, the downs are there, as well as I've done the whiskey kind of, what is it, the mile or whatever they call it, where you get the passport and you go through Louisville. I was down there for Muhammad Ali's funeral, and was like, well, fuck it, let's get shit faced on firewater for a couple of days. But at the same time, I guess I want to circle back to the question of how was it entering the industry, because it's not like an architect makes his nut and he's like, I want to open a restaurant on a mountain. You're getting into a an industry that almost feels like it's not only very prideful by those that are in the industry, but also those that respect bourbon and whiskey in America. Like from our friends, shout out to Sam Barrett's, who's a collector, buys barrels, auctions them off, raffles them, and then gives the money to public school sports teams. Like it's a very, there's an honored tradition. Was it hard breaking into that community, or was it easily because you'd fostered relationships leading into it? How was it being like, fuck it, I'm getting in the game?
That's a good question.
Thank
And
you. Got a time.
second one, I give you two points on the board. Um, I think by and large, people that get into bourbon industry are good people because they like the same things of this time and people together. So I want to give a blanket credit to it, but I do think it's been hijacked by these a little pretentious perks that do it for collection purposes and like to have a big shelf and show off their bourbon collection for lack of other resources they have. And I think there's a lane. So when we first came on the market, we were young and we're still pretty young and new. We were winning all these awards, and people were like, "Who are these two assholes like making away? We don't distill our own product. We're very honest about that. We source our whiskey. We're architects and builders. A great chef doesn't grow the cow often. They pick the Wagyu beef from the best place. So we source from what we think are the best places. What we do is we brand our product and deliver it in a very meticulous way. So it's personal and people, it's not about the full shelves of bottles on your shelves. It's about the empty ones and the stories you tell with it. So our bottle has a leather strap on it. You save the leather strap, everything's single barreled. It's got a special story number to it. So we don't care what the fuck you're drinking. If it's Jack Daniels and Coke, we're game. It's just, are you celebrating the whiskey with others and telling a good story and building relationships and community, or are you an asshole that just puts it on the shelf and is looking down at everyone else that doesn't have your collection? And I think the bourbon market kind of got hijacked by that uh, a little bit.
I think you're exactly right. And you said it beautifully yesterday in that, like, these are bottles that are meant to be shared with your neighbors. And we also spoke about what a true cowboy is in that regard. It's the one that looks after for their neighbors, the one that is not a conservationist by a politician sense, but the ones that are actually, thoughtful about the land that is around them. And your family introduced wolves, and now you're introducing a whiskey where it's like, you don't have to be highbrow. This doesn't have to be one of those that's picked over your Blantons or the Buffalo Trace family that's trying to abscond and take all of everyone's dollars and people lining up outside. You have a very approachable product that's at a friendly price point. If, let's say, I'm in Colorado, a lot of our listeners are in Colorado. If you're not on the shelves there, are we able to buy a Lost Whiskey if they want to taste your story? They want to learn a little bit more about where you're coming from. What's the best way for someone to go about it if it's not readily available on the shelves in their communities?
Well, thank you for that. We are close to DC, and DC is like the Wild West for liquor laws, and so
Among other things.
they allowed to ship. So we ship pretty much nationwide to most every state in the country. It's probably the easiest way to get our product. We can't go to all 50 states because it would
I
kill it.
can't send it to my dad. Don't worry. I've already tried. They're like, no, we don't ship ships there.
Well,
Shout out to Madison, Mississippi, Canton, Mississippi.
okay, well, there's like 8 states we can't ship to by legal reasons, but so you can either, if you're not one of those 8 states, you can ship it online at lostwhiskey.com, or we're big into barrel picks right now. We do barrel picks per state because that's a cool way for us to enter a market in a selective way. So we just did one in Montana, we did one in Charleston, Michigan, Delaware, and we try to tell the state story, and then we work through either bourbon clubs or liquor stores, and we sell them a barrel, and we come there, and we do a special branding, and we tell their story, we tell our story. So that's probably a unique way to enter. And we love Colorado. My daughter went to Boulder. I got ancestors that came through Aspen, which is another good story. So Colorado fits our vibe. So yeah.
I mean, from the Mormon faith to the Catholic convent, the family that hunted and lived off of the land here in Wyoming, it seems that you're heavily entrenched and like being able to tell the story and the history of not only this rich tradition in this country, but also you seem to be a little bit of aficionado from the George Washingtons to, the family lineage. Let's dive a little bit into that. Who's your favorite politician of all time, and why is it Teddy Roosevelt? I can fucking already know.
I think you could. That's a pretty fair pick. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt gets credit for being like this.
It was also very progressive and
He
like
was most. He was one of the most well-read presidents. If you look at what he wrote and what he read, very thoughtful guy. And he worked the landscape. He worked at Eaton Ranch, which is the oldest dude ranch in the country. He got his love of the West through a dude ranch in South Dakota, I believe, the Eaton Ranch, which is still ongoing in Wyoming. We're friends with the Eatons. But he got introduced to this country through dude ranching, and a lot of people in conservation get introduced to us. So I thought Teddy was very thoughtful, and that's a good pick. So
no, and I feel like it kind of fits. Like obviously everyone wants to, like fit their, almost people wear a president as like a personality, or if they're losers, they try to latch on to someone that won something because they can't in their own life. But you've seemed to be a winner in everything you've done in your life. So not only kind of being steeped in history, you're also very much present in everyday life. How do you manage that kind of in between of the two of like being so stoic, but yet at the same time trying to press the limits on life and what, this bountiful treasure trove that we have amongst us?
as I get older, I'm sure like of all a lot of people, I feel like I waste time with the crap that's the distractions and social media and stuff. But I've gotten a new faith, a new renewed sense of like reading some of these old texts. I was a great books major at Notre Dame, and we read all the old great books, and I mainly read the Cliff Notes and tried to half-ass it. But those books mean something to me now because I got lived experiences that make them important. And you're 20 years old, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Just those books don't mean much to you because you don't have enough experience. So I'm kind of going back to these. I love podcasts. I listen to that's pretty much my main source of information is it's so available, it's so free. You can look at any subject. So um I listen a lot.
Yeah, and I try to do that being a host of a podcast. Everyone says I talk a lot and I'm very loud. Um, and it may have been one of our famous presidents, but it's like carry the stick, rather than, but you're exactly right. Like Ken Burns is a great way for me to kind of transport myself back because I wasn't very studious, but at the same time took classes in Latin, Greek, ancient cultures, know the books of Homer. And now we see these movies come about and it feels like they're almost doing a disservice. So being able to find ways to circle back and take a little more appreciation for things that we once took for granted is a great way to kind of like not necessarily revisit things where we may be shorter on time as we get older, but you seem well read and very well educated, but also very thoughtful and conscious of those that are around you, but also the land and the products around you as well.
Well, I try. I'm kind of a hack a little bit, but
Aren't we all?
I enjoy it because I think those books are great for a reason. And people discard them sometimes that they're just antiquated, and they're not because they lasted for a reason. And there's lessons in those books that we shouldn't ignore.
You're exactly right. And and speaking of things that we shouldn't ignore, in a world of top shelf, bottom shelf, a litany of different whiskeys on the wall of the bar that we're sitting in right now, y'all should not be y'all should check out Lost. I was gonna say, don't be lost on Lost Whiskey, but that's too cheesy. Y'all need to check out this brand. I will be doing a showcase. I'm gonna buy a case of it and have it delivered to Spirits Wines Provisions in Arvada, Colorado. We will do a tasting, and you'll be able to see the leather straps that come with it. And I believe, was it your mom that was on stage yesterday who was wearing one of the branded tags or something? And she said, write a name on it. Write something that who you shared it with, something that y'all were drinking about or over. And I feel like it's a very conscious effort of being present in the moment, whether it's we're thinking back on the olden times, celebrating the lives that were. Y'all have done a very great job in encapsulating that and then telling that story through Lost Whiskey. And I feel like your family has done a wonderful job doing that here in the Jackson Valley as well. I'm going to ask you a couple questions that are a little bit more intimate, a little less about family, a little bit more about me getting high as bird pussy over during COVID, and questions that we ask all of our guests to paint a little bit more of a picture of your personality and why folks may be like, this guy's awesome. I get why Kip was glowing and raving about him during the Jackson Hole festivals. The first question, we call it our cartoon question. It's just a levity. You grew up without a television, so this may have been a college thing, or it may have been showing your kids Disney movies as they are my age. If you had to have sex with one cartoon character, Mark, who would it be?
Well, I'm a God-fearing man, and my wife would not want my answer on this. So I would, as long as she can be present, it would have to be Lola Bunny.
Okay, is Lola Bugs' wife our partner?
Well, I was going to say Bugs Bunny, but I don't know if he's got a gender.
I thought it
But
was Babs Bunny. Is it Lola Bunny? Because if so, Andy Pay had the same thing, but we couldn't figure out the name. I love that answer. And now I realize that we were calling her by the wrong name all day, which is brutally
I think my wife's in the room; she'd be cool with it. But I
Lola.
wouldn't do it by myself. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so when we're thinking about this, I made this joke on last week's episode that the Space Jam recreated that cartoon character for people my age and your
I think
kids.
she's a blonde in Space Jam.
Yeah, and Wayne's World, the movie with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, they're joking that the difference is that she just has a bow in her hair, and it's like, and they just start cackle laughing. That's a wonderful answer. And I love how there's almost like a generational like reference of what you think she looks like based off of your growing up age. So that's a great answer. The next couple questions are a little bit tame. And again, thank you so much for putting up with my bullshit. I know it's been 30 minutes, but you're a fucking trooper and I'm proud of you.
No, enjoy it. We got good view and a couple beers. It's all good.
Let's get this guy another beer. He's got to put up with me for a little while. The next question, it's the dinosaur question. Do you believe in dinosaurs?
I do.
If you would have been a dinosaur, what dinosaur would you have been?
You know, I don't know a lot about dinosaurs, but the little I do know, I believe crocodiles were around before dinosaurs, and they're still around now, or a version of the crocodiles. So I would pick a version of the crocodile because they survived, right? All the other dinosaurs got whacked or died, but the fucking crocodiles made it. So
There is a movie, and I can't remember exactly which one, but it's the movie's Role Models, and one of the people eats too much Ambien at a camp out because he can't sleep. And he walks up to someone in the middle of the night, sleepwalking. He walks up to him, and I think he's naked. And he says, you know, birds are dinosaurs. Or dinosaurs aren't extinct because birds are dinosaurs and they're everywhere. And the person he walks up to just has this like lost, like fraught look on their face, like, Jesus Christ, why is this guy naked talking about dinosaurs? And you're exactly right. Like, and growing up in the South, I'm a Bayou child myself, born in Louisiana. Those fuckers, there's no way that they're not dinosaurs. Like, just everything
they say they
about,
predate dinosaurs. That's like,
I mean, 100,000%. Come on and join us. Don't be shy. We're on the tail end of the episode. I love that answer, and it's a little bit more like present minded, and I like it. I like it.
yeah, I want to survive. I don't want to be whacked. So yeah, I want to survive. So yeah,
I like that answer. That's actually really great because you don't hear nearly enough. Everyone always leaps to like what would be an apex predator, or they oftentimes think of themselves as an alpha in the room, and it goes
the
back
small
to
penis answer. Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
get it.
that speak softly, carry big stick answer is what you just gave, which is what I referenced earlier, and it just came to fruition. Mark, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Thank you for kind of stewarding me through not only a whiskey tasting yesterday, but also telling the story with your family on stage and the lineage of the Turner family in America from San Antonio and even Mexico all the way up here into the frigid cold of Jackson, Wyoming. This next question, before we dive into it, give everyone a quick, if they wanted to find lost whiskey, if they wanted you to design their next cabin or mountain home, what's the best way for them to learn more about your story beyond this 30-minute debaucherous conversation?
We're surviving. Our architecture firm is called GreenSpur, greenspur.net. That's a green version. We're kind of sustainable builders. We have the cowboy spur, so it's greenspur.net. Our whiskey is lostwhiskey.com. Best way to find us on both of those on Instagram, just put in GreenSpur or Lost Whiskey Distillery, and you'll see us on Instagram. We post all the pictures and stories, or many as we can, that are is clean on Instagram. It's a good way to follow us. Thank you.
Okay, so I met you, your brother, your sister, and your parents yesterday. We heard some gnarly stories, and we're not a true crime podcast, so we won't dive into pitchforks and things of that nature. Who's the best shot in the family? And we can speak of your daughter, and you mentioned the gentleman that was on the front row at the tasting as well. Don't want to discredit them. Who's the best family shot in the family?
Probably my cousin John Albert. He does the most upland bird hunting, and he's into guns. So I would say John Albert in our family is my cousin.
My little sister, her name is Shelby. If she's listening to this, she is the queen of our castle. My dad's like, she's better than everybody. And she's single and lives in Jackson, Mississippi. So God bless. I hope she never needs to use it. But at the same time, my dad's like, she's a proficient shot.
I'm a bow hunter, so I love to bow hunt, and that's my passion. And I don't pick up guns too much anymore, but bow hunting is.
You eat a bunch of tag sandwiches?
Oh man, yeah, we do a lot of deer hunting.
Is it elk up here as well?
Elk here.
I saw the picture of your grandmother with the moose.
Yeah.
Jesus fuck, man. The thing was huge. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of get that question because it feels like our families would really hit it off if we were to ever be at the same Thanksgiving table. But our last question, speaking of table, we call it the Last Supper. We want to invite you to your death row meal. We want to know if you could have 3 people join you. They cannot be friends or family, but they can be dead or alive. Who are those that you would want to sit around a table and speak with? And what is your death row meal?
Ooh. Let's start with the people. And I have to noodle on the meal. So I'm sure you're aware of Ernest Shackleton.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of Ernest Shackleton. I've read all the books and tales. People that don't know his story, he's trying to get to the South Pole. Ship got caught in ice, and he had like 45 men, I think, with him or something like that. They survived basically a year, and the story's incredible. But it's just such an amazing story of leadership, and I value people with good leadership. So having him at the table and understanding how he kept those guys alive and not killing each other and dying, I'd like to have it. And he had whiskey with him too. So he's a big whiskey drinker. So definitely Ernest Shackleton would be 1. 2 would be, this is an odd one, but Friedrich Nietzsche. I think Nietzsche was kind of a dark soul, but he got a lot of things right in his theory in the 20th century, like crazy right. And his theory,
Scarily.
yeah, like crazy. And he was a dark soul, but he predicted what was going to happen after they so-called killed God. And so I'd like to have Frederick there. And then the third person would be Jesus himself, because I think that'd be an interesting kind of banter between the two. Jesus, you can't argue with his impact on the world is probably number 1. He's at the Last Supper, so it'd be appropriate to have him there. But to see Friedrich Nietzsche and Jesus go at it with Shackleton drinking whiskey, I think that'd be a pretty good Last Supper.
That's not a bad bourbon. So we know what we're drinking. What do we eat?
What are we eating? I'm a big fan of filet mignons with mashed potatoes and fried Brussels sprouts. I love tenderloin. That's my meat. Cooked very rare with mashed potatoes. Yeah.
Can't beat that with a stick. Brown gravy, or let the jus and the blood and the juices of the meat seep into the potatoes.
Let's tell here. My uncle Harold, who passed this year, the best marinade for meat you'll find, and this your audience can test it out. You can keep it really effing simple. It's curcumin soy sauce and a shit pot of garlic powder. So it's not salt. You got enough salt in the curcumins, and you just marinate that for an hour, and your audience will listen to it. That's the only 2 ingredients you need for steak. And you just cook it as black as you can on the outside and as rare as you can in the middle. And that's the ticket.
That's a black and blue steak if I've ever heard one. Mark, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Thank you for taking the time all week and to not only tell your family's story, but also sharing, your passion project, your art. I've seen pictures peppered throughout the valley, as well as, just taking, like you said, we don't have enough time. And so I'm really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking 30 or so minutes to chat with me today.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's a blessing and
a curse. I told you,
curse.
You're gonna curse yourself for sitting here with me for 30 minutes. Let me buy you a beer. Let's get the hell out of here.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Until next episode, y'all stay high, stay hungry. Cheers.